Hi everyone, my name is Will Valida. I'm a software engineer and cloud architect, and in this video we're going to talk about how we can generate code using Azure OpenAI. One of the capabilities of Azure OpenAI is that we can generate code from natural language prompts. You can get Azure OpenAI to generate code ranging from a simple one-line command to a full-blown application. Most of the language models available can help with code, with some performing better than others. In the base GPT-3 family, the standard text models have a good base understanding of code, and codex models have expanded coding capabilities on top of the standard text model. As new generations of models evolve, the base models drastically improve their performance and understanding of both language and code. This improvement can help us use just a single model for more recent generation models, such as GPT-3.5 Turbo and GPT-4, that can be used for both natural language and code. So what can Azure OpenAI do with code? Azure OpenAI can generate code from natural language prompts. Azure OpenAI models can generate functions and apps in several languages just by us describing what we want. If we have code in one language, but we need it in another, Azure OpenAI can translate that for us, and the models are helpful for understanding code that doesn't quite make sense to us, or maybe in a language that we aren't familiar with. Azure OpenAI can also assist us in common software development tasks, such as writing unit tests, completing partial code, commenting code, and generating documentation. Using AI, this can actually help us as developers to spend more time on complex programming and problem-solving tasks. Azure OpenAI models are capable of generating code based on comments, function names, and partially written code. The more context that we can provide to the model, the more accurate our response is going to be. Azure OpenAI models can generate unit tests for functions you write to help make your code more robust. And to further improve our code, AI models can also add comments and provide documentation for us. Finally, Azure OpenAI models can help identify ways to improve and provide suggestions on how to write better code. Azure OpenAI models can help fix bugs in code by analyzing the code and suggesting changes that can potentially fix the issues. This is great for us as developers because this helps identify and resolve bugs faster and more efficiently. Azure OpenAI can find more efficient ways to accomplish tasks that you're trying to achieve in your code. And Azure OpenAI models can help guide developers on how to refactor their code. But let's see this in action. Let's jump into a demo and see how we can generate and improve our code using Azure OpenAI. Okay, so let's kick off our demo. Now, Azure OpenAI Service has models that can generate code for us using natural language prompts. It can complete tasks like fix bugs in completed code and also provide code comments, etc. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually see how this works first in the chat playground before seeing how this works within a C# application. Now, first thing we'll need, I've already got this here, but we can create a new deployment using the model that we're going to be needing to generate code for us. So I've already got one ChatGPT 3.5 Turbo 16K, which is sufficient. And to test this out, we're going to have a test of how this works in the chat playground. So just to familiarize ourselves with the playground, in this kind of chat interface, I've got my assistant set up here, which is used to set the context of the model's responses. I've got the chat session here, which we're going to use to submit chat messages and also view responses from the model. And then I've got my configuration section here where I'm choosing the model that I'm going to be using. And I can also include things like how many past messages I want to include in the context. So first things first, I've selected my my GPT 3.5 Turbo 16K model. So I'm going to set up my assistant and to say, so you're an AI assistant helping to write code. Cool. So there's my system message all set up. So now I can type in my query. So what I want to do is I want to write a function in C# that takes a character and a string as input, and returns how many times that character appears in the string. There we go, nice and straightforward. There we go, it's generating my code for me. And there's kind of like a C# method, count character occurrences with character and string as inputs. It's using a for each loop to go through each character of the input string and just adding it to the count and then returning it. And then it also provides an example on how to use it. Cool, so that's doing it in C#. So let's try doing the same thing, but this time in Golang. Press enter there. Cool. So there we go. It's generated my Go function for me. So there's the function there. And then it's calling it within the main function there. Fantastic. Cool. So as you can see, the model responded very similarly to the first time, but this response is in Go, and then this response is in C#. Cool. So now let's explore how we can actually use AI to understand code. I'm going to copy and paste this Python method here. So I'm just asking, what does the following function do? And I've got this function that multiplies two numbers together. Or let's press enter and let's see what the model responds. Okay, so the given function multiply AB calculates the product of two numbers without using the built-in multiplication operator, and then it just explains what that method is doing. But this method is quite large. I mean, we could use the multiplication or the built-in multiplication operator, but let's ask our model to simplify the function. Can you make this more simple? And it looks like it has. So essentially what it's done, it's generated a simplified version of that multiply function. So again, it's just getting the result and multiplying A and B together and then returning that result. So it's a lot more simpler than our original function, which is awesome. We love simpler code. And now what I can do is I'm going to go add some comments to this function. And there we go. So there's the simplified multiply function with the added comments. So we've got another comment here saying calculate the product of A and B using the multiplication operator and then return the result. Cool. So this is how we can actually work in Azure OpenAI to generate code. Let's see how this works in a C# application. Cool, so here I am in Visual Studio. Now what I've got ahead of time is this appsettings.json file, which includes my configuration that I'm going to need for this application. So I've got my Azure OpenAI endpoint, my OpenAI key, and also the name of the model that I'm going to be using to make requests to. And I've gone ahead and installed the configuration.json package and also the Azure AI.openai package ahead of time, so I can actually go ahead and create my Azure OpenAI client here. Cool, so I've got this class called operations with a method called multiply inside it. It's a very basic class, but what I want to do in this demo is generate some comments for it, see if Azure OpenAI can generate some unit tests for me, and see if it can optimize this code. So on line 15, I've got a system prompt saying you are a helpful AI assistant that helps programmers write code. And I'm also passing in the class file, which I'm going to pass through into all user messages. So first for adding comments, I've got my system prompt set up. And then for my user message, I'm going to say add comments to the following function and then pass through the class file. I'm writing all of the responses out to the console. You can write this to files if you want, but I'm just doing this for ease. Then I'm going to write unit tests for it, or get Azure OpenAI to write unit tests for me. I will add, so I've got write unit tests for the following function, use xunit as the framework. So I'm instructing it to use xunit as the framework because what I want to do is generate unit tests, which I'll store underneath this unit test project that I've set up, and then we can see how efficient or how good those unit tests are, and if they actually do um, generate useful tests for this multiply function. Just save that. I'm writing this all out to the console, and then I'm also asking Azure OpenAI to refactor this code for me, so make this code more efficient, um, or more or provide better performance. There we go. Cool. And again, I'm writing that to the console. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to run this. And as we can see, it's generated some code for me. So the first one, we asked it to write some comments for us. So it's done that. So what I can do is just copy and paste that, go back into Visual Studio, back into my operations class, copy and paste that, and there we go. So this code is defining a static class named operations within the code generation namespace. And then this function takes in two integers, two integer arguments, num1 and num2, and returns their product. Fantastic. Cool. So then we asked Azure OpenAI to write some unit tests for us using XUnit. So it's generated some unit tests for us, which is pretty good. So what I'm going to do is just copy and paste that. And I'm going to create a new class file in my tests. So operations should, my unit test project, make sure it's got this extension, copy and save that. And there we go. I can remove XUnit as well because I'm using it as a global using. So it seems to compile, looks all good. So I wonder if I just run that. Cool. Looks like all those tests are passing, which is fantastic. It's in an empty namespace, but yeah, looks like it returns the correct result, returns the correct result with negative numbers, and also multiply of 0 returns 0. Fantastic. So it's taken that tedious task of writing unit tests for me. This is a pretty happy path kind of scenario that it's generated for me. I have found in the past that it has returned some kind of unit tests that are either out of date because APIs have changed, or tests that just don't really test what they're supposed to. So do keep an eye on it. I got pretty lucky with this one, but just expect mixed results from AI models. As I said in a previous video, don't always trust AI models that they're returning facts. Always use AI responsibly. So finally, we asked it to provide or refactor this method to make it more performant. So it said here, the given code is already very efficient and doesn't have any performance issues. However, if we did want to improve it further, we could consider using math.bigmul method instead of this a multiplication operator to use for multiplying two integers and returns a long result, which can handle larger values than the int data type. And here's an example of how to use it. So cool, I could use that method if I needed to get a little bit more performance, well, not more performance, but handle larger values than the int data type can already do so. Cool, so that was a very simple, very straightforward example about how we can use Azure OpenAI to generate code for us, which is pretty cool because it can take the kind of tedious part of programming out for us. So it can generate comments for us. We can write unit tests using Azure OpenAI. And we can also ask Azure OpenAI to kind of refactor our code if we're struggling to think of a better way of making our code a little bit more performant, or if we just want to refactor it to make the syntax a little bit cleaner. Cool, so that wraps up this video. If you like this video, give it a like, and if you have any questions, please post them in the comments section below. And if you want to see more videos on Azure OpenAI, don't forget to subscribe. No matter where you are in the world, I hope you're having a great day, and we'll see you all next time.